This episode of PHA TV is dedicated to 4 individuals who made little, if any, impact in the NHL as players, but left a huge imprint on the sport of hockey in their respective careers. Brad Hornung was a man who was dealt a bad hand in life, but never lost his spirit and optimism when faced with a life-changing adversity. Brad was the son of Larry Hornung, a solid defenseman with the St. Louis Blues and a WHA Winnipeg Jets. Brad became an NHL prospect himself, playing for the WHL's Regina Pats. In 1986-87, the 5'10", 175-pound center had 66 points in 61 games and was a bona fide NHL prospect for the upcoming 1987 NHL Draft. But his life would change on March 1, 1987, in a game versus the Moose Jaw Warriors at the Agrodome in Regina. Midway through the contest, Brad cut to the net, was pushed in the lower back, lost his balance, and plunged headfirst into the boards. Brad never moved, and as over 4,000 fans, including his dad Larry, watched in horror, paramedics raced to the ice to save Brad's life. He was struggling to breathe after swallowing his tongue. A heart massage and tracheotomy were performed on the ice. Brad Hornung suffered a burst fracture of the third cervical vertebrae and a crushed spinal cord. In a span of a few seconds, he went from NHL prospect to quadriplegic. Enduring grueling rehabilitation, Hornung would eventually return to the game of hockey, serving as a scout for many years, including stints with the Chicago Blackhawks and NHL Central Scouting Service. He remained a fixture at the Brandt Center in Regina, where his number 8 hangs from the rafters. Brad supported the Pats at nearly every home game. In April 1988, the WHL restructured its awards program, including the introduction of the Brad Hornung Trophy, awarded annually to the WHL player who best displays the same attributes as Brad: talent, desire, and an unmistakable sportsmanlike attitude. Brad said, quote, "The game of hockey has been good to me. It's been good to my family. My dad made a living in it. He loved it. I love it. I don't feel any bitterness or anger towards it. I don't think most people would be angry because I don't consider myself to be any different than anybody else." Brad Hornung passed away on February 8 at the age of 52, following a brief but courageous battle with cancer. As a player, the soft-spoken Sandy Hucul was a warrior, playing 18 years of professional hockey. He was a 6-time Western Hockey League All-Star, a 4-time Western Hockey League champion, twice as a player and twice as a coach, and was the World Hockey Association Coach of the Year in 1974-75. Sandy Hucul is second only to Guile Fielder in WHL games played with 1,119. Hucul was one of the league's toughest and most consistent defensemen. He played in Calgary, Saskatoon, Vancouver, Spokane, Victoria, Denver, and Phoenix. He and his brother Fred played together in the 1966 Patrick Championship team at Victoria. But with just 6 teams playing in the NHL at the time, a good player like Hucul could spend his entire career in the minors without hope of a call-up. Many of his Phoenix teammates on the 1972 championship squad would move on to the NHL or WHA. Those include Larry Lund, Andre Heinz, Frank Hughes, Marv Edwards, Bob Liddington, and Ted McCaskill, among others. Hucul missed that opportunity, but was an ideal man to become a head coach. As a coach in the WHA, he led the Phoenix Roadrunners to the WHA playoff berth in their first year of existence.
I think the guy that's got the puck, he passes it, you got to hit him. Take him out of the play so he can't get back in it. And if we do that, I think we're going to stay away from a lot of trouble. And we'll stop their skating game. We stop that, we're going to beat them, guys. Come on, it's up to us.
Roadrunners enjoyed another solid season in 75-76, but Hucul was not rehired as the Roadrunners were careening towards bankruptcy and could not afford to retain him. A quiet, calm, and cerebral man, Hucul continued to coach successfully in the low minors, but for some reason never got a shot to coach in the NHL. He spent much of his retirement years serving Hockey Ministries International. Sandy Hucul passed away at age 88 on February 6, 2022 in Phoenix, Arizona. Mike Nykoluk may be best known as the first full-time NHL assistant coach. He was hired by the Philadelphia Flyers as assistant to Fred Shero in 1972 and helped guide them to the Stanley Cup in 1974 and 1975. He was also an assistant with Shero for 2 seasons with the New York Rangers in 1979 and 1980. Nykoluk coached the Toronto Maple Leafs for 4 seasons from 1980 to 1984. But these were not good years for the Leafs, and Nykoluk's fatherly pat-on-the-back style could not overcome the dysfunction of the Harold Ballard Leafs of that era. As a player, the Toronto-born Nykoluk played on the 1955 OHA Championship Marlies, who went on to defeat the Regina Pats for the national junior title. Nykoluk scored 4 points in 32 games as a forward for the Maple Leafs in 1956-57. That would be the extent of his NHL playing career, but he'd become a legend in the American Hockey League, especially in Hershey, PA. Known as the Big Bear, Nykoluk played 14 seasons in the American League, and he's 6th in AHL history in points with 881, 3rd in assists with 686, and 5th in games played with 1,069.
When he's your MVP and leading scorer and Calder Cup winner, boy, that's a pretty good resume to have. And Mike was all 3 of those. Mike was a great guy, and he was a hard guy. I mean, he was nice and smiling all the time, but when you got out to practice there, he demanded, quite a lot out of you, which is something that I've taken. I've still got a couple of his drills in my head that I use with the guys, and so very fond memories of Mike Nykoluk.
Nykoluk won the Calder Cup with Hershey in '59 and 1969. It was inducted into the American Hockey League Hall of Fame in 2007. Mike Nykoluk died on January 30, 2022 at the age of 87. Over just the last 2 years, the New York Rangers of the late 1960s or early 1970s have lost Harry Howell, Arnie Brown, Jim Nielsen, Bob Nevin, Ken Schinkel, Bob Plager, Jack Egers, and Rod Gilbert. And now the man who built those classic blue shirt teams, Emile the Cat Francis, has passed away. Francis was the founding father of the modern-day Rangers and one of the NHL's most talented and exciting teams in the 1960s and 70s. He took over the perpetually downtrodden franchise and built a strong organization on the ice with a full commitment to the community off the ice. Emile wheeled and dealed with great success in the 1960s. He traded for Eddie Jockerman, who was then stuck with the AHL in Providence. He built his first playoff team in 1967 around Jockerman, Harry Howell, Bob Nevin, Rod Gilbert, Jean Rattel, Vic Hatfield, Nielsen, Brown, Phil Goyette, Donnie Marshall, and Boom Boom Geoffrion.
We've got 2-3 guys who've been with us are not going to be playing. So that means that the rest of us pick up the slack and go that much better. And we have to work that much harder. Now, you had a good workout yesterday, and we're ready to go today. We're going to skate, check, and play our positions. All right, let's go. Good warm-up. Come on, Eddie. Let's go. Come on. Come on, Harry.
And then he transferred that group into the marquee one, featuring the Gag Line, Brad Park, the Bulldog Line, Ted Irvin, Pete Stemkowski, Bruce McGregor, Bobby Rousseau, Gilles Villemure, Nielsen Sealing, and Dale Rolfe, and the rest of the greatest generation of Broadway blue shirts. Now, unlike the Bruins and Canadiens, the Rangers were virtually unscathed by defections to the World Hockey Association, but they handed out big contracts to all the veterans, and many of those players became complacent. By 1975, the core of the team was gone, and Cat himself would soon be replaced. 1976, Francis took the helm of the St. Louis Blues and quickly rebuilt the moribund franchise, finishing second overall in 1980-81.
You'll be up the top of the mountain, you'll be down in the bottom of the valley. And the thing is to keep your head and keep your cool at all times and learn your lessons from those type of things.
Similar to his Rangers stint, however, Francis was unable to elevate the Blues to a Stanley Cup championship. By 1983, the franchise was nearly dissolved, and Francis headed back east to assume control of the atrocious Hartford Whalers. With the Whalers, the Cat followed a familiar playbook: resurrect the franchise, build the team's community imprint, but he was unsuccessful in getting the team to the, quote, next level.
I've gone through 3 phases of building with a hockey club. The first was with the New York Rangers, and we had to build that team, and then the next one was St. Louis Blues, and now the Hartford Whalers. But I derive more satisfaction out of this one than the other 2, simply because think that the people here deserve something such as this. It's a type of a community that's a great place to live. The support has been very good. And basically, the owners, I think, deserve it, the fans. And it's a real, I think, pleasure working with the people that you have to hear. And that's what makes it so satisfying. But we won't be satisfied, of course, until we get the Holy Grail, and that's the Stanley Cup. That's what it's all about.
Now, it's in Hartford where I got to personally work with the Cat, or Mr. Francis, as we all called him. Emile was an unforgettable, honorable, and decent man who was a lot of fun to be around. When I think back to having an office where the Cat occupied the office to my left and Gordie Howe was in the office to my right, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I truly appreciated. Yes, the stories they'd tell were hilarious. Emile gave the Whalers credibility, and his amazing string of brilliant transactions between 1983 and 1986 made the Whalers a playoff team and division champion by 1987. After securing several ex-Blues from the waiver wire, he made deals that netted key pieces like Dave Babich, John Anderson, Mike Liu, Joel Quenneville, Stu Gavin, Dean Evison, Torrey Robertson, Doug Jarvis, and more. Emile Francis was a fiery competitor, but he handled wins and losses with the same classy and upbeat demeanor. He treated everyone with complete respect, and of course he had the total 100% respect of all those around him. Emile was a tireless worker, but he always put his family first, and he created a family-like atmosphere in our Hartford Whalers office. And he was way ahead of his time when it came to the importance of community relations. Just ask Joey Mullen or Nicky Fotiu about his grassroots effort in New York. In Hartford, I can personally attest that he expected every player to make numerous community appearances each year, and they did so without complaint. Many of those appearances were made without fanfare in the inner city because it was, quote, our responsibility. He also enjoyed sparring with the rambunctious media, and he was equipped with an arsenal of one-liners. When one scribe tried to provoke him by asking, "How many Stanley Cups have you won?" the Cat quickly replied, "Well, how many Pulitzers have you won?" They don't make him like the Cat anymore. He will be sorely missed. Recently, my good friend John Horrigan and I talked with Joe Mullen and Rick Middleton about their memories of Emile Francis.
You started your career with the St. Louis Blues, and we're here to talk about the recent passing of hockey great Emile "Cat" Francis in the Metropolitan New York Hockey League. What are your recollections of the Cat?
Well, you know what? Way back then, I was only 10 years old, but I remember he was like a god around our neighborhood. And my neighborhood, the old Madison Square Garden, was right up the street, and he was the GM of the New York Rangers at the time. Just a real good guy, great guy, good for hockey in the metropolitan area, and started the first junior league in that area. And it was funny because one day he was just needed to get out of the office, so he took a walk, and he gets outside the garden, and he sees all these kids roller skating down the street, and he followed them down, and it was the schoolyard to where we used to play all the time, and he started watching, and he goes, "Why can't we get these kids on ice?" And then that's when he got the idea of a junior league in the New York City area, and so he got people together, started the league, got many kids off the street, something to look forward to. A lot of guys got college scholarships out of the league, and it just kept growing. It was great.
Included your brother Brian, who ended up playing with the Rangers.
Yeah, I had two older brothers too, and yeah, Brian actually worked as a stick boy for the Rangers, and then and got a scholarship to the University of Wisconsin.
So if it weren't for the Cat, not only for your youth hockey in New York, but also signing you in St. Louis, maybe the Blues would have kept you down until you scored 90 goals in the minors.
Well, I think when he started the league in New York, his dream was to get some of these kids and be able to draft some. And I was fortunate enough. I didn't get drafted, but he did sign me out of college, and that's how I got my start to my career.
And by the way, he wasn't the only one recruiting a three-time All-American out of Boston College.
There wasn't many, though. There was only a couple, and he was one of them, and he gave the best offer, so, I jumped at it.
Excellent.
Training camp, 1973, the Bruins and the Rangers had played for the Cup in 72, and the Rangers still had a very good team, so I never cracked the lineup, even though I was a first-round pick. And they sent me to their minor league team, the American League team in Providence, Rhode Island. So I was in New England when I was 19 years old, living in Cranston, Rhode Island. And the cat told me that, it's not an emotion. We just want to send you down to get you some seasoning, get to learn the professional game, and trust me, you'll be back up. And it was the best thing that happened to me because I went to Providence. I ended up winning Rookie of the Year in the American League, went to the finals, the Calder Cup finals, losing to Hershey. But I got the experience of going all the way and a little understanding of what that meant. And the next 2 years, I got up with the Rangers. And the second year was the year that they fired Emile in January, and after he had already made the big trade for Hodge and Esposito, and traded not Hodge, I'm sorry, Badney and Esposito, and traded Park and Rattel. And it was huge in New York at that time when that happened because they had already traded Eddie Jockman, which wasn't popular with a lot of fans. And I'm not sure if that led to him being fired, but in January he was fired. And I was just thinking about it the other day that I know that if the cat was still there in New York that year, he probably wouldn't have traded me. And he probably wouldn't have traded me to Boston for sure. So it's funny how things happen, but the cat was off to St. Louis. And at the end of that year, I was off to Boston. And my hockey life and personal life took off from there. So I just always had the greatest respect for the man. He's the guy that gave me my first shot and really helped me get to the professional level that I did before I came to Boston, and I've always thanked him for that, and I love the guy.
The Pro Hockey Alumni is dedicated to promoting and celebrating the legends who made the game great. Here are 2 more videos created for those who love the history of the game.